Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime.
Welcome, everyone, to Reckless Speculation. It is September 26th, and if you're anywhere in Tennessee, pretty much from middle to east side, it is raining now from Hurricane Helena. So a little damp out there, but it's good to be back. Football is finally back. We've been hit or miss on our podcast here a little lately, work schedules and travel conflicts with other people. So good to be here. So without further ado, let's introduce our cast. Robbie, how's it going?
It is going, man. Glad to have you back. And yes, I'm glad our work schedules are clearing out a little bit. You know, we got Thursday night football in the background, so all is well in the world, aside from the weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tom, how's it going, bud?
Well, no hurricanes up here. Little chilly. Fall's definitely starting to set in. The leaves are turning. It's always somewhat depressing because the boat gets put away. But what's the end result? We get football, and we get to do the podcast. So all is well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive right into it. You had quite a test of a game coming in this weekend. We're going to start with college football, and we'll go right to the big house in Michigan. So USC was a favorite, I believe, and Michigan has been a little sketchy to start. You know, quarterback issues somewhat, but they've got quite a good front on both offense and defensive line. What did you think about this game overall? And with only 32 yards of passing,
man.
I mean, what does that say about how dominant the other aspects of the game were?
Well, coming into the season, I don't think there was any secret the offense was going to fall off, especially at the quarterback position. But the one thing you could kind of hang your hat on was the fact that they were returning a lot of their guys on the defensive end, Kenny Grant, and then Mason Graham, and Will Johnson, and Page. So, but they haven't really stepped up to the plate, we'll say, in my Tiger jersey. I'm a little pun there. But they got off to a slow start. But last week, their defense decided that they wanted to show up. And right out the start of that game, the defense let their presence felt. I think they kind of learned their lesson in that Texas game. They got a little stunned and a little humbled, we'll say, and they came out and attacked, and they led the way. And then you look on the other side of the ball, they're in trouble. To be honest with you, I don't know what their answer is at the quarterback position because Alex Orji doesn't seem to be it, and I don't know what their plan is moving forward. I know they've got some injuries there, but they do have a 5-star in Jaden Davis, who's kind of waiting in the wings. I think they should just go ahead and pull the plug and let him go, but it doesn't seem to be the case with him this year. But the offense, a lot like last year, was led in the ground game. Khalil Mullins goes crazy for 159 and 2 touchdowns. And Donovan Edwards, yeah, he showed up a little bit. Didn't have his best game, but when you're running the ball as good as Michigan did, if you remember last year in the Penn State game, they ran 32 times straight. I think that was kind of the offensive mindset that they went into this game with. They knew what they have at quarterback. Get Orgy running a little bit, see if that could free up some room. But all in all, I'm happy that they came out and competed well. The crowd seemed to be really into it, and USC's first Big Ten game coming across, and I know Raj has some opinions. Unfortunately, he's not here to kind of dissect his his thoughts, his views of the game. There's a lot of grabbing, and I know there's some missed calls, and I guess you're going to get that no matter win, lose, or draw. But Michigan can't keep winning games only throwing for 32 yards. And down the road, I mean, the game like this coming up this week against Minnesota, they can get away with it. But some of the big ones coming up, Oregon, Washington, and Ohio State, they're not going to get away with it. But all in all, I like the way the defense competed and showed up and kind of led the way. So will it kind of propel them moving forward? I hope so. Coach Moore came out and said that they've got a new plan for Orgy this week. That always makes me a bit nervous, because if you're talking about changing schemes or game plans, then you really don't have much, but we'll see. But they pulled it off after being embarrassed by Texas, so I can't complain.
Yeah. No, I think, most of the Big Ten, that kind of run heavy style, old school football, they can get through, but they're going to have to figure out how to score quickly to keep up with some of these high power offenses. Like you said, Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, and then of course, some of the SEC teams as well. They've got to figure that out. But I think they've got the offensive line to stay stable and the defense to keep them in games, but they're going to have to make some big chunk plays.
Dave Portnoy came out today and said he will pay $1 million to $3 million to the top quarterback in the portal. So clearly he's frustrated. He's the biggest, Michigan's biggest cheerleader. So we have a quarterback down the road, Bryce Underwood, who goes to Belleville High School. He's a senior. He's the number 1 rated quarterback, high school quarterback in the country, who's committed to LSU. I got to believe Portnoy's knocking on his door tonight.
Yeah. NIL can bring magical things to teams.
Ask
for
UCLA.
Sure. Yeah. So let's look at the other side of this. I know Raj isn't here to break it down, but just from what I saw, again, back to the offense and defensive line, they were bigger, stronger. They just pushed USC around majority of the game, but mostly in the first half. USC struggled, tired, just getting blown off the ball. They finally started to make some adjustments at halftime, and started to spread out the defense a little bit, and really started moving down the field. What do you think? Is this a big for USC? Do you think they still have a shot at trying to make the playoffs, or running into these bigger teams in the Big Ten, is that going to cause problems?
Yeah. So, big picture with USC, I think they're still in good shape. They have a pretty favorable schedule. They have Penn State at home. They avoid Ohio State. They have Notre Dame at home. Their roughest away games are at Minnesota and Washington. But going back to this game a little bit, so I think they're still in fine shape. Going back to this game a little bit, if I'm USC, I'm concerned about these coaching matchups, because this was one of those where we're going to do this till you can stop us, and they could never stop them. And it was almost like USC was like, maybe they'll get tired of running it, and we can just
hope and pray.
We can just try to bore out, like, hope they get bored at this instead of actually having solutions. And that goes to the idea of this is some conference adjustments, right? So this is going to be there's no more Cal's on the schedule, Stanford's, Oregon State. While it's not that USC couldn't lose to them, but it was, empty stadiums. Not Oregon State. Oregon State fans show up, but like Berkeley, Stanford, UCLA, even though they're the Big Ten now. But this is road games. This is a tough test, and I think what you're going to see also, yes, these guys are getting paid now, so they are semi-professional athletes, I guess. But look, this back and forth, coast to coast, this travel time. And this travel is going to wear on these teams as the season progresses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to take it out. And then the third thing is my takeaway was USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon. They're going to have to, maybe not Oregon, but because they kind of play, old school football, if you want to call it that. But they're going to have to change the way they recruit, because I'm just thinking, hey, what if that game gets scheduled in late November next year? You're at Michigan in late November.
Cold. Yep.
Yeah, you got to run the football. There's no spread it out, throw it. It is so you've got to get the
wind and snow.
Yes, you got to get the linemen, you got to get the defensive ends, and so it's gonna be, it's gonna be a change. Lincoln Riley's, slinging around offense is gonna have to recruit differently because it is going to change the weather they're in.
Yeah, we talked about that in previous shows, how the mindset of some of the West Coast coaches are gonna, they're gonna have to go into Wisconsin and Nebraska and recruit some of the big farm boys and just for the simple fact of the style of play in the Big Ten, it's a little different. So
yeah, absolutely, they're gonna have to change and adapt to that because. It gets tough in the winter in the north for sure, and these California boys are not used to that cold weather.
And the Big Ten, like the Michigans, Ohio State, Penn State, they have a great advantage because when they go to the West Coast, I mean that's great weather. That's a break from from the winter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they travel.
All right, speaking of road games and travel, let's segue straight into the Vols road game at Oklahoma. It looked like UT pretty much dominated this game. It was a little bit, it didn't show as much in the score as it did on the field. Nico's first road test, Rob, he was, I believe, 13-21, 194 yards and a touchdown. Okay, wasn't terrible. Didn't turn the ball over. Missing passes, not all on him. But what did you think about his first performance and test on the road in somewhat of a hostile environment?
Yeah, so Heupel said after the game, and this is, Brett Venables' kind of MO. He was like, and Venables confirmed this afterwards also, like they have never ran the defense they ran Saturday. So it was all brand new on the fly. They hadn't seen it in game film. And I thought Nico's composure was great. And I thought the players handled the atmosphere really well. And my biggest takeaway was Heupel's growth as a coach. I think last year, maybe the year before, he keeps trying to throw it. He keeps, running his up, like they're up tempo, but they were set, and then made the defense just sit there and wait, and then just run the ball. And so I think in years past, because you're right, Brandon, what you said, like it didn't feel that was not a 10-point game. As far as control, as far as you were never in doubt the Vols were going to win once they got up 10 points. And so it was a controlled game. And I think that just goes to hype, like, hey, you're in a road environment, get in, take care of business, get out. We don't care what the stat line are. We just had a top 10, top 15, top 16, whatever it was. road victory. I mean, that place was rocking. OU's first SEC game. They wanted it. Heupel's homecoming, all the storylines. So I thought, Nico's first road game. I do think, and this was what I was really looking for. This was the first game that they have struggled on the road, whether it's South Carolina, whether it's Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Missouri. This was the first game where they've had the headsets. Thank you, Connor Stallions. And so Heupel was able to communicate with Nico, get the formation. And so that's a trend that I'm looking to track throughout the season.
Yeah. Tom, I'm going to come to you. On this, the Sooners are ranked, I think, 28th in defense. Tennessee's defense really showed out. I think they're right now number 1 overall in total defense. With Nico, his first road test, do you think just getting this experience and getting this road game underneath his belt against he's top 28, but still he's going to face some really hard defenses coming up. I think. What do you think about this test and how you think he's going to prevail, throughout the season?
Anytime you go into Norman, it's going to be a hostile environment. What is he, a redshirt freshman? So, regardless, this is his, third start altogether as starting quarterback of the Volunteers. It's a huge win, and it kind of takes the monkey off your shoulders a little bit. So you as a young player, you kind of know what to expect going into these environments now. The crowd was crazy. Even when they were down, when Oklahoma was down by 2 or 3 scores, the crowd was still into it. So you take that in account. You take the fact that it was the game of the week, night game. So you have all day to sit back and play in your mind how the game's going to unfold. And then it happens. So seeing the fortitude that he possessed, he looked very calm. He didn't look at all bothered by the fact that he was in that environment. So I think, yes, that experiencing that and seeing what to expect will help him going in, because he's got to go to Georgia. I think that's his biggest test. Arkansas this week or next week. Sorry, he goes into Arkansas. So these little tests are definitely going to help him when he's got to go down to Athens and play Georgia. But when you have the number 1 scoring defense in the country, that kind of takes a little pressure off your chest offensively. You don't have to worry about going in and putting the team on your shoulders. So for a young kid like that to have a defense, and Josh Heupel, like we've talked many times before, each year he seems to get better and better coaching. So he's going to put him in the right place, and if he's not fit to be there, he wouldn't be, and he's there. So, but yeah, this game against Oklahoma should boost his confidence moving forward.
I agree, and underlying fact here, I think Heupel really, really wanted this win. Almost as more than the players did, just because of the bad blood there. He finished second in the Heisman in Oklahoma, and I guess he was offensive coordinator and got let go out of nowhere. So I think it was a huge win for the Vols. Like you guys said, this is nothing but experience for Nico in this situation. It was a great road test. Even though, stats, whatever, he held his composure. He ran the offense efficiently. And again, the defense did help relieve some pressure there.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, Heupel was OC at Oklahoma during those Sam Bradford years where, if not for Nick Saban, they win a championship. And they missed on one quarterback and he got fired. One bad year. And go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's just, it's how it is. What have you done for me lately? Kind of deal. There's always a carousel going on. So I heard today, or I saw a clip today where, these bold predictions, I guess. Colin Cowherd was on some podcast or talking to somebody. I don't think it was the Herd, but a different version of it. He's saying he thinks UT is going to win the national championship. What do you think about those expectations, Rob? I know that's a long way to go, and with 12 teams this year, there's a whole different outlook on how to get there. But
yeah, so I heard that too, and I think the guest he was saying he said, "Tell me I'm wrong." He was like, "You're wrong," but you know, if this is tennis, right? Like you just won the game where you're not serving or the set. I wish I knew tennis better to use that analogy than probably just putting it. But you just won the game where you're not serving, right? So now it's just hold serve. You got Alabama at home, and
which you could be favored in.
Yeah, they very well probably will be. And then you go at Georgia. Hey, you split those two, and they're favored the rest of the way. And so then it's get in and we talked, or I can't remember what text. The way this thing is set up, I like being the 5 seed. The way, that you're going to get essentially a warm up game after the layoff, and
you're going to get a home, and it's going to be a home first round.
Yeah. So I think whoever gets, especially in this first year of this format, I think whoever gets the 5 seed wins it, and Tennessee's got a chance to get that.
It could be. We've never seen this, obviously, so it's going to be crazy. But I think it's going to be dominant with SEC and Big Ten, and then you're going to have a couple sprinkled in, ACC or whatever.
JMU.
Yeah, some of those teams, and I don't even want to hear it. If you're 13th and on the line and you don't make it, don't complain. Like there's no complaints there.
If you're the 5-12 matchup, you get the home game against, say, Boise, UNLV, Northern Illinois, whoever's going to be. Then you go to the fourth seed on a neutral side.
Neutral field, yep.
Yeah, so you got the 4, then the championship. I like that lineup.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Hey, and how many 2-loss teams are going to be in this thing this year? I think quite a few. There's
USC. It's their opportunity to get back into things.
Yeah. So, all right. Speaking of looking ahead here with this Alabama UGA, I think Georgia's favored by 1, I believe, coming into Tuscaloosa.
I think it opened at 2.
Opened at 2. I think it moved to 1 right now. Tom, what's your initial thoughts of this? Can Bama pull something out here?
Bama's defense is fast and big. I watched Georgia at Kentucky struggle to run the ball. Carson Beck did not look what we're used to seeing him. In this game being in Tuscaloosa with Georgia being the favorite, I think this is a big Alabama win. Good buddy Barry James out in San Diego would love to hear that. I think this is an opportunity for DeBoer to kind of cement his start, his kind of making with Alabama. I didn't see enough against Kentucky. Yes, it was a road game, but that's a game that Georgia should have been able to go in there and dominate, and they just didn't. Matter of fact, there were times in that game where Kentucky was playing a lot better, and if not for some penalties and some turnovers, they may have come out with that game. So I like Alabama in this game, especially because it's at home, and DeBoer's going to definitely want to get his name on that record. So,
yeah, I think the hinge point here for Alabama is Milroe. I mean, what can he do offensively? Because the defense, like you said, is pretty solidified. So,
and what Alabama did, yeah, it was Wisconsin, but they went up to Madison, and that's not the easiest place to play. And Milroe accounted for, I think it was like 5 touchdowns, 3 or 4 passing, and
he
a couple running. Yeah,
started heating up. So,
and they've got that freshman receiver. I think Williams is his name, and I think they got overlooked here by the betting field. I don't know. I don't like.
Yeah, Rob, same question. I mean, what's your take on this game?
Yeah, I night game, first home underdog since 2007, I think it is. While DeBoer hasn't faced Kirby, the players have owned Georgia, and while Georgia's been kind of, I mean, it's crazy to think they've won 2 of the last 3 championships, but Alabama still owns them, winning 8 of the last 9. So I like Alabama at home. I think the odds makers have this line wrong. I would be looking at Alabama -5, maybe -4. But to touch back on what we just commented on about how many 2-loss teams are going to get in this thing, get ready for Georgia with possibly 3 losses getting in.
Oh,
Look, their potential losses at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, with a win over Clemson and over Tennessee. That's how are you going to fault them for losing at Alabama, at Texas, and at Ole Miss?
so you're already calling Tennessee loss here down the road? Is that what I'm sensing? Oh,
Tennessee lost against Alabama. So you think you'll beat Georgia and lose to Alabama?
No, I'm saying Tennessee. I mean, I'm saying Georgia could lose at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, 3 losses, but have a win versus Clemson and a win versus Tennessee. And so you have 3 tough road losses and at least the top 3 talented team in the country. So I'm not saying that's going to shape out, but I think we could be looking at that.
it's possible.
I mean, I'd put that 3-loss Georgia team in over a 1-loss Notre Dame team.
Well, this team,
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame can't afford to lose any more games.
No, the NC State game was just
Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois. Sorry, that was just crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, the interesting thing, both teams are coming off a bye. I wonder how many phone calls, if any, DeBoer's had with Nick Saban this week.
Oh, I'm sure a lot. You know, Saban's hand's still all in the cookie jar.
Oh, sure.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure he'll be there this Saturday.
Oh, man, that 17-year-old kid is a freaking stud for Alabama. The receiver, I think his last name's Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who Tom's talking about earlier. He's really, really good. So Texas, are they the real deal? What do you guys think? Let's start with you, Tom. I know they're ranked 1 right now. Quinn Ewers has been out. Archie Manning looks like a freaking beast. I mean, it's just plug and play, rinse and repeat. I mean, offense is just unbelievable.
You look at the fact that they lose Ewers, and they bring in Arch, and they never skipped a beat. Matter of fact, I think they may have gotten slightly more explosive. This is probably, outside of Tennessee right now, probably the most complete team. What they were able to accomplish here at the Big House, they came, they smacked them, and they kept smacking them, and they put their knee on their neck. And they showed their dominance, and I really think that right now that's a statement win for them to go on the road and do what they did. Yes, Michigan, we've talked about it, their offensive woes, but nonetheless, they go in to a hostile environment, 110,000, and their tight end is phenomenal. I can't think of his name right now, but he's a top tight end in the country, and they just spread the ball out. That's what I like about the Texas offense. When they think you're going to stop them on the run, they're going to hit you downfield. When they kind of cover that, they're going to hit you in the mouth with the run game or the in-between with the tight end. They really don't have many flaws offensively. And on defense, those boys are big, especially up front. They plugged Michigan's run game. And when you can do that, when you can stop that run game, you know you got something going on. So I really do think right now, after the small sample size that we've seen, I know the past couple of weeks have been kind of ho-hum matchups for Texas, but they went in and they did what they were supposed to do. But I definitely think right now they are the legitimate number one team in the country, and just based on the fact that Ewers goes out and here comes Arch Manning with all the pressure with the name, he came in and just took off, and there's going to be people clamoring for him to keep the starting job, but I just don't think that's fair at this point. But it's a good problem to have. I would love to have that problem here in Michigan.
To have that kind of problem with, two quarterbacks that could start for any team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and while I'm not a big, huge person that says, hey, look at last year and this year because it's college sports, things are fluid, as fluid as they've ever been. But this Texas team last year went on the road, second game of the year at Alabama, won. They won the Big 12. They took Washington down to the wire in the playoff. Now to come, we thought that Michigan game was, Michigan's you're just not that good. They have a fall off. Well, that looks a lot different 2 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
And so that anytime you go to the big house and win, it's big. Especially with even though yours has played and he's been high, it's still a young quarterback. And and that's the thing about Texas that makes them so dangerous is losing your starting quarterback doesn't affect you, right? It's not like next man up mentality. It's literally next 5
There
star.
are very, very few teams in the country that can, recalibrate with their backup quarterback and still, be sufficient. And
if you look at this day and age of college football, when you can plug in another 5-star who's got probably a 7-figure NIL deal, the fact that he's still there, 2 years later, he's still there when, the noise was, hey, he should transfer somewhere to get an opportunity, but he stayed. That speaks volumes for the program. That's what I look at.
It does. I think it also speaks, just his upbringing and class. Like, for one, he doesn't need the money. I mean,
no.
Look at his family. So NIL has no effect on this kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's always wanted to play in Texas. That's been his dream. I think there are huge advantages in being able to sit back and, bide your time and learn the offense and really, really learn. Yeah, just like in the pros. But, and Quinn Ewers is a great I read something about how close those two are together, and he mentors him and they go back and forth. I think it's a really good situation for him, and obviously he can step in and play at any time. And I think they still said Ewers is still going to be the starter, but regardless, I mean, what a problem to have, right?
Yes, no question.
Well, and this is kind of always what you feared Texas could become, right? Mm-hmm. You get them out of the Big 12, because that was the thing. All the SEC schools could always recruit against Texas by saying,
"We're in the SEC.
Do you really want to go play road games at Kansas State? No, you don't. You want the limelights every game." now Texas can. Yeah, we got that.
Well, and they've always been, fairly decent sized in Texas, but I think they've gotten a little bigger in the front side too. More SEC-esque or Big Ten-esque, and their lines look good. They're fast. They're big guys, and it's a very well-rounded team. Like you said, I agree. I think it's the best team, most complete team in the country right now, for sure.
But I guess the distance between 1 and, if I'm looking at the rankings right now, 1 to 5 and maybe even 6. I mean, it's close.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is playing out of their minds, and so I think for once there's no clear cut number 1. Yes, Texas has kind of asserted themselves, but the drop off from 1 to 6. I'm not sure if Miami's there yet. I think they're very promising, but 1 to 6, definitely you could easily make a story for why any of those teams could be number 1.
Well, to your point, after this weekend, we probably have a new number 1 team, right? Whoever wins the Georgia-Alabama game.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, again, that 1 through 5, it's going to come down to matchups and coaching. And that's going to determine who jumps who in each week or whatever. Because the talent, all of them are very, very talented and, deeper teams. So it's going to be a fun college football season.
We're I guess 2 years into this NIL stuff. Yeah, the rich are getting richer.
Mm-hmm. And then UCLA. And then the poor are getting poorer. Go to UCLA.
Yeah.
Broken NIL promises. NIL is going to be a problem down the road. And this past week was probably the first chink in the armor with.
Yeah, let's talk about the UNLV story.
I didn't even hear about that. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, so basically UNLV is, I think, either they are the top-rated non-Power 5 or they're right behind Boise State. So a legit playoff contender.
3-0.
And allegedly, the starting quarterback was promised $100,000 to come play there. He has gotten, I think, $20,000, and they essentially said they're out of money. We don't have the rest of the $80,000. And he's like, "Well, I'm done. I'm not playing."
Mm-hmm.
So he has just essentially said, "Y'all are on your own. You promised me this. I'm not playing." And so, is this going? Yeah. So is this going to be, a trend? I heard some things like, what happens if, say Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee, you're in the playoff week for a playoff game. You're saying, "Hey, we're not playing unless we all get another $500K."
I think that's all worked out in the front end, though. And in this case, there's got to be some kind of contract or something where you sign.
There was nothing it was a verbal. Nothing was done on paper. And
I just don't understand. It's Vegas. How can you not get 2 or 3 people to come up with $80,000 to pay this guy?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. I think that might
for these guys.
That might wake up some of these people to make sure stuff is in writing.
Oh, yeah.
But again, on the flip side, you won't be able to come in and say, "Hey, I want another $500,000 or I'm not playing," because I guess you could technically, but the contract. Well,
the thing that I look at in this situation, here's a kid. He's 3-0. He's led his team. He's a big percentage of that offensive game plan, and he quits on his team because, he may have been wrong, but somehow that could have found its way. Go back a few years ago where no one got paid legally. You got your payment was an education. So you look at the character now of this kid that just said "F you" to all those teammates of his who they're rolling 3-0, and nope, I'm done because they didn't follow through what they promised. I would be cautious as a coach recruiting that kid just by that fact alone.
Well, extremely 100%. Short-sighted on the kid's part. Like, hey, Yeah, you got at that point you got to chalk it up to a lesson learned. I'm transferring after this season. I got screwed over, but I
Mm-hmm.
guarantee you, he just cost himself more than
Oh,
$80,000 in the NFL.
absolutely. Who
Yeah.
wants to take someone
Yeah,
like that that's just, narcissistic and selfish and doesn't care
yeah,
about his team, not a team player? That's the whole problem with this NIL thing, like you
Yep.
guys said. Like, it's ruining the character and the heart of these players. And the transfer portal on top of that is just,
And you're seeing it in the gameplay too.
yeah.
You're seeing
Yeah.
these kids playing not for pride anymore. They're taking plays off, and I don't.
That's why I was saying I give a ton of praise to Arch Manning because of him staying. He knows he could go to any other college and be a starter right now, just from his name alone. I mean, the talent's there, but
Well, there was I don't know if y'all are watching I think it's Netflix, the Aaron Hernandez, maybe it's FX. It's FX and Hulu, the new Aaron Hernandez show, but it's portraying Urban Meyer, like, oh yeah, recruiting him like, like, oh, we're care for your son so much, blah blah. And then he gets to camp and it's like, well, I'm now Coach Meyer. I'm not Recruiter Meyer. And he's like, that's how coaches were forever, and now, and that's why, like, Coach K, like Saban, like all these guys are getting out of it because it's like, I want to be a football coach. I don't want to be someone's best friend all the time, and like you just have to baby them so much now, like because they can just leave.
You sit him out a game or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, he's going to transfer, or he didn't play this year because there was somebody ahead of him.
Yeah, not getting my
I'm out.
touches,
Yeah, it's just not a good situation.
it's not. And a lot of the kids that suffer are the younger and high school kids coming out because you're getting a lot of transfer portal recruits harder and proven film and
And they're also seeing what the next level kids are doing, and they're beginning to develop this form of entitlement, which ultimately is going to affect the gameplay, down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that'll wrap up our college football talk. Let's slide into the NFL. Tom, let's start with your Lions. They go on the road to beat the Cardinals 20-13, and it wasn't a dominant game, but I think the Lions pretty much really shut down Kyler Murray in that offense, which has had the previous week was really hot. Him and Marvin Harrison were finally connected, and they looked really good and had some really good momentum coming in. Just break that game down. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, coming out to the start, offensively, I think Detroit's game plan was pretty much to do the opposite of what they didn't do last week against Tampa Bay. They came out fast. They mixed it up. They had a really nice hook and ladder, which you don't see that very often in the NFL game. A quick out to Amon-Ra, who flipped it back to Jahmyr Gibbs, who ran it in for his stat line. I saw was what was it? No receptions and but 20 yards receiving and a touchdown. Like the very odd stat line. But as the game progressed, they kind of fell back into the way that they played the previous 2 weeks. They really tried to force the run when Arizona was doing well, preventing it. So Laporta goes down with an ankle. He's still considered day-to-day, but he hasn't been right. And but defensively, they looked really good. They put a lot of pressure on Kyler. And the one aspect of this game coming in that I was worried about was the fact that Baker in week 2 had no problem scrambling out of the pocket. When the pressure came, he was out of there. And Kyler Murray is definitely a more athletic quarterback than Baker Mayfield. And Detroit was able to, for the most part, kind of harness him. They put a spy on him. They kept him in check. They didn't let him beat him with his legs, and they forced him to beat him with his arm. And you can get away with it with with Kyler because I don't think he's the most accurate, especially on the run. And they had him scrambling, and I got to hand it to the secondary. Terry and Arnold got flagged early. He's the most flagged corner in NFL, but he kind of figured it out, and he had a really good game. And Kirby with a pickoff, and they were swarming him. They were kind of bullying up those receivers, and but ultimately the score didn't really reflect how the gameplay really was. I mean, there were so many stalled offensive drives in the second half. Detroit could have probably won by 3 scores, and they just didn't. So I look at this. There's a local radio guy that I'm not the biggest fan of, but he made a comment the other day that I really agree with. I really can attest to the Lions' slow start, and you see it all around the NFL. The NFL right now is bipolar.
God, it is.
You see the fact that these starters don't play in the preseason, and they don't hit very hard in camp, and so really they're just getting their legs underneath them. So I look at the Lions and I see what they're capable of, and the fact that they haven't really matched that tells me that this is a team that they're getting their legs, they're starting to figure it out. Offensive line is what it is. They're definitely one of the better in the league, although it looks like they're going to be without Frank Ragnow this week with a partially torn pec. That could be a huge blow to that offensive line. We got the Marcus Davenport free agent signing. He's out for the year. Barnes, the linebacker, he's going to be out for the year. This game was brutal. With injuries. Brian Branch, I think, was unconscious for a couple seconds after a hit. It was helmet to helmet, but it wasn't intentional. It was just kind of the way the receiver turned around and then ducked down, and Branch was right there. It took a big blow, so he might not be playing this week. And Anzalone missed last week. So coming into this game against Seattle, we'll talk about in a little bit, they're banged up, and it's scary that they're banged up so early, but fortunately they get the bye week after this week. But I think they left a lot of points on the field. Arizona kind of came down to earth, and they kind of showed the blueprint. Get after Kyler and force him to beat you with the arm, and I think you'll get good results. But maybe a C+ for the Lions. They have not played their best football. They did sign Allen Robinson to the active squad this week. He's been on their practice squad. So they're trying to find the answer to Josh Reynolds, who left for Denver this season. So the running game is still there. I'm optimistic, but got a tough matchup. But going on the road after what Arizona was able to do to the Rams the previous week, I do like what I saw defensively.
Yeah, I think they're, like you said, everyone's just kind of getting their feet wet. There's no real preseason anymore. I agree with that, and it takes a little bit to get moving. Plus, it's the NFL. I mean, the first probably 3 to 5 weeks are just insane until people really get their feet under them. Speaking of the crazy NFL, Malik Willis, who we just traded to the Green Bay Packers.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah. Comes to Nashville and proceeds to dominate offensively against the Titans, and makes our boy Levis just look even worse than he is when he puts mayonnaise in coffee. I mean, this is just absolutely the last straw. It is for me anyway. So, Rob, break this game down for us.
I mean, what do you say, and what are we doing? And we run a boring offense again, and the one thing you can't do if you're boring and not creative is turn the ball over. And Levis has 5 turnovers through 5 interceptions through 3 games. 2 of
most
which,
turnovers in the NFL.
Yeah, two of them are well, I guess whatever that roll thing was he did against the Jets, was that a fumble? I don't even know what they called it. Just like, I guess that was a fumble.
Is that when the coach came out on the field and was
Yeah.
like, what the F are you doing? Like,
Yeah, I guess that was a
came
fumble.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 5 interceptions, at least I think maybe 8 turnovers total. Like, yeah, I mean, and then to have the quarterback we traded for a 7th round pick to come into Nashville in a semi-home game for the Packers and just dominate, like, it's just a bad look all around. 0-3 against the Bears, the Packers with a quarterback we gave them. And an old
for a 7th round pick,
yeah, and an old Aaron Rodgers. 2 of those being at home. I mean, we're looking at first number 1 pick territory at the moment.
And how soon before Levis gets? And who's the backup plan in Tennessee?
Well, it's not Malik Willis.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. Malik. I don't know who it is now.
I don't know who it is.
I have no idea who it is. But yeah, no,
good old Mason Rudolph.
Oh yeah,
watch out.
He's got a tough head though. He can take a
he does.
Well, honestly, at this point, I would not be shocked if the Dolphins get Ryan Tannehill off the street and play him on Monday night.
How much of that was Matt LaFleur being? I mean, I think he's starting to cement himself as a top tier coach.
Yeah,
was that Malik Willis with just he's a very humble guy. He's a very humble guy. And I think the media was trying to, get him to say something like, "Oh, I'm coming in here," but he was like, "No, man, no hard feelings." And
talk
this
about
comes
Vegas
down to coaching 100%.
Yeah, and talk about Vegas missing a line. I was like, "What? Why are the Titans favorite in this?"
Yeah, this comes down to coaching 100%, because if our talent evaluation was Levis is better than Willis. And that may be true, then why in the hell did Willis come in and dominate? And what they did is they highlighted his strengths and really guarded his weaknesses. They let him use his legs. Mm-hmm. We didn't account for him running the ball, which we should have, because we should know him pretty well, and that's his big MO. And it was just disgusting.
Which was the argument of why the Titans were favored on our group text, was they know him so well they can defend him.
It's just unbelievable.
Honestly, the problem with the Titans is they are essentially like me in my fantasy football draft, but I'm not worth $5 billion. Look, with both Willis and Levis, 31 other teams had the option to draft them, and they say they are not a starting NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Guess who drafts them?
Yeah, the Titans 2 years in a row. But this guy, this is
we got a deal. What a steal! Yeah. I can't believe he fell this far.
What is this doing at the Dollar Tree? This should be at fucking Prada.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the Titans.
Yeah, we're the TJ Maxx of
the TJ Titans.
Yeah, it's just awful. And I'd like to officially announce I have sold my PSLs.
Oh,
I got what I could out of them, because there's no way in hell I'm paying to come watch this and pay as much as they're asking me to pay. For the same season.
Did you get a Dollar General gift card for it?
Pretty much. I lost quite a bit, but I gained more than I would have if I'd have just.
He got a unofficial game worn Will Levis
also, in this sell, I had to sell the rest of my tickets for the season, which I was glad and happy.
Please let me give them to you.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, no longer a PSL
Well,
holder.
I was at the Jets
Goodbye,
game,
good riddance.
and yeah, at the Jets game in week 2, the Titans home opener, our section, which is lower level, I bet it was 80% Jets fans in our section, which is just embarrassing for a home opener.
I think that's the challenge that you face by playing in a destination type city.
Yeah,
But
sure.
you have to put a product on the field that your own fans
That's the thing.
want to come to.
Nobody wants to go waste an entire day, doing that and going to see that kind of product put out there. And the decisions in the front office they keep making have been, very terrible in my opinion. I think the majority of the fans would agree as well. And now they're trying to build this new stadium and ask just a tremendous amount of money for new PSL seats. The loyal fans get screwed here. I've been PSL holder since 2004. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I'm not going to pay to see that.
Well, not only have the Titans lost me in would I ever spend money or at this current, it's not ever, but I wouldn't spend money to buy a ticket right now. They've also lost me as an audience. Right. So I would always say, all right, Titans game in the early window. Then I flip to red zone. Now I'm just red zone. Red zone's my main focus now. And
what are you going to see but a bunch of turnovers and, getting your butt whooped all over the
high school play with
Levis.
Levis
When you lose
out of control.
hardcore fans as one in attendance, step 2, you lose them as a TV audience. Like something's got to change.
Yeah. Heads need to roll. I mean, clean out the front. It happened here in Detroit. Yeah. The fans were starting to turn away. They weren't selling out Ford Field. It was like, all right, I've had enough. That something has to give. And sadly, the old man passed away, and his wife took over. Yeah. And then his wife said, "You know what? I'm going to give it to my daughter." And she has absolutely went in, cleaned house. The whole front office was changed 3 years ago. And look what we have on the football field. Yeah. Look at the product. It changes. And it doesn't take long. When you put the right pieces together, you can get those fans like Brandon, like that they put a product on the field, you'd be more apt to want to go. Same with you, Robbie.
Absolutely.
And look at me in my situation. I was never going to ever buy season tickets for that team. I'm a second-year season ticket holder because I believe in what they've been able to do in the front office to lead the play on the field, the right decisions that they made. So it can be done. They just have to pull the trigger and do it.
Yeah. Well, and they're trying to make changes, but they're just making dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes just changing just for the sake of change doesn't always benefit you.
Right.
Like you've got to think it through and make wise decisions, but we keep following down the same path and the same road, making the same mistakes. It's like insanity. Like I can't see.
I do think that Amy Adams sells once the stadium's built.
Oh yeah,
I think she just on that.
Her net worth went up by $2 billion. Yeah. She's selling.
Yeah.
So it's just
it'd be wise.
Titans have always been 50-50 away fans most of the time, or half the time lately it's been 60-40 away versus home fans. This new stadium will be nothing but corporate and away fans.
Did you see the Rams-Niners game over the weekend?
It was 90% 49er fans.
Yeah, you couldn't
easily 90%
look to find a Rams jersey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was like that in Arizona with the Lions. There was probably 60 to 70%. A friend of mine, her boyfriend was there, and he was like, it was mostly Lions fans in there. I mean, when Jared Goff, put his shoes on and got that first down to cap the game, there was a roar came out of the crowd. Like it was Ford Field West. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. Real quick, let's talk about Sam Darnold and the resurgence here with the Vikings. How good does he look right now in this Vikings team? Are they potentially one of the best teams or the best team, Tom?
On paper, what we've seen, 3-0. what they did to C.J. Stroud last week, why not? I mean, they were talking during the game last week. Shanahan said he loved him, Darnold, and he was loved in Carolina. Like, the guy works. And you want to talk about somebody that's got a chip on his shoulder. He's kind of been ran out of the Jets when he was drafted there. And he's kind of been, overthought, we'll say, everywhere he's been. And you can't discount the fact that he spent a year with Kyle Shanahan and learning the quarterback position. So now he comes to Minnesota, who right out the rip, you're probably not going to start. And if you do, you won't be the starter for long. But he's in an offense that's very quarterback friendly. And when you have Justin Jefferson as your security blanket, man, that makes everything a little bit better. So I think the threat of having that downfield, I mean, they threw a 97-yard touchdown pass 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's insanity. But then you got to look on the other side. Brian Flores, as a defensive coordinator, is one of the best in the business. And this is a defense that got depleted in the offseason, and they just reloaded. So the NFC North, I think indications were they were going to finish third. Man, it's going to be a dogfight for the North title, because Green Bay's no slouch, and like I said earlier, Detroit hasn't played their best football. But right now, Minnesota, on all facets of the game, they're scary. We're going to learn a little bit about them this week because they go into Lambeau. And I wouldn't be shocked if Jordan Love plays this week. So if that is the case, that could change things there. So, but right now in this bipolar NFL, I mean, it's them, it's Buffalo, it's very easily, and then you look at the teams that are supposed to be up there, and the Chiefs are 3-0, but I don't think the Chiefs are that good right now. I mean, they haven't been really good offensively, and you look at the Ravens 1-2. It's just crazy, but right now you have to count Minnesota in the conversation for one of the better teams.
Yeah. So they have the second best scoring defense, the third best point differential. The two most important games, as it looks right now in the NFC, are the two matchups between Minnesota and Detroit. Mm-hmm. Those look like the two best teams in the NFC, and who gets home field out of those two may end up representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Real quick, Rob, does Sam Darnold finish as a top 5 quarterback this year?
Man.
I think so. I think he's got the best weapon in football right now in Justin Jefferson. And you look up at the numbers Cousins was putting up before he got hurt last year.
Oh, career year. He's going to have a career year.
No one can guard that guy. He's just a man amongst boys. And so they play indoors. The lines are indoors. I think these numbers keep getting higher and higher for him.
NFC North, boy. Woo.
I think he does. I think he finishes as a top 5 guy. I think he beats out your bum friend Burrow. He hasn't looked so hard.
Burrow is a damn bum.
Frosted tips.
He's 0-3, just lost to a rookie.
Oh, speaking of that, how good did Jaden Daniels look?
He looks incredible. I mean, he could very easily. I mean, he's my favorite for Rookie of the Year right now. I mean,
those two long. The touchdown, kind of the dagger. There was no communication. That was almost a blown play. They barely got it off, and
he threw it down. I mean, you couldn't cover a guy any better than that. And I mean, it's perfect coverage, and he just dropped it in like
his first touch, and he is no ill effects of the knee. He's proving why Florida State was where they were when he was healthy last year. I mean, he was kind of putting them on their back.
He was at LSU.
No, LSU. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah. Disregard that. But, he's a weapon with his legs. But, man, when he's throwing passes like that, watch out. He's been good.
Yeah. Speaking of LSU, how in the hell do they only have 3 championships in my lifetime? Like, talk about Justin Jefferson, Jamal Chase, Joe Burrow,
Nick Saban.
Yeah. So much talent.
That's a lot place. All right, let's keep it moving, guys. We're a little over an hour. We'll try and wrap this up here fairly quickly. We're just going to do a little preview of our teams here. Rob, we'll start with you and our not-so-beloved Titans at this moment. Coming into Miami, this is our bad game of the Monday night preview. Titans are +1 against Miami with no Tua. What does that have to say about the Titans?
Yeah, can the NFL not flex this into send them back to Sunday at 1? Is there not anything?
Who wants to watch this game?
Well, the Detroit-Seattle ratings are going to go through the roof after this one.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah,
all right.
I mean, maybe play a Will Levis dumb play drinking game if you want to get a little saucy before the other game starts. I don't know why else you watch this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Who do you got winning?
I mean, Miami's playing a backup quarterback. We lose to backup quarterbacks. Give me Miami.
Love it. I'll take the same. All right, Tom, let's go to back to Ford Field here. Seahawks coming in. Lions are favored 3.5, which standard home field advantage is 3, so they're getting a little bit of a nod here. What are your thoughts here? Who do you think wins this one?
The Seahawks have beaten the Lions the last 5 games. The last 2 years, it's affected their overall, rankings, we'll say, positioning in the NFC. Specifically, 2 years ago, they lost. They missed out on the playoffs. Last year, they lose, and it kind of cost them the possibility of a 1 seed. They've had this game circled on their schedule as somewhat of a redemption game. It's Monday night. They're back home after a win to get that kind of that dirty taste out of their mouth after losing to Tampa. I think you're going to see a little bit more wide open play. Obviously, I mentioned Robinson has now been signed to the active roster. I think they're going to open it up. To me, this is a very heavy Jameson Williams game. He's proven he can handle it. He can handle the workload. He got the workload really heavy in week 1. So if they can open it up, that only makes the running game that much better. The thing that scares me, like I mentioned, probably not having Ragnow. And Graham Glasgow left the game last week, so their offensive line is a little bit depleted. So they're going to need Jared Goff to step up. And with Laporta ailing a little bit, I'm not sure about his gameplay, but I think the offense kind of gets under themselves finally this week. It's loud at Ford Field Monday night. That's going to be a big factor. Get to Geno. Don't let him beat you with his legs like they did last week in Arizona. And I think the Lions can win by, 2 field goals or a touchdown.
Like it. Will you be in attendance?
Yes, I will be there.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good for you. That'll be fun.
I did not go to the Tampa game, and I said I can't miss any more games because they're going to lose. So I'm not missing any more games.
All right. Well, since we're running a little bit long, I'm going to skip some of the other games we were going to talk about, and then let's just roll right into Bet Your Nuts.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
All right, boys. I'm going to start this one off. I'm going to go to the NFL, and what we have is quite a matchup on Sunday Night Football with the Bills and the Ravens. But both teams have shown signs of not greatness necessarily, but pretty high-powered offense. More the Bills than the Ravens, but Derrick Henry has been quite a beast for the Ravens, and what an addition he's been. Another great move the Titans made. But I like the Bills here. They're plus 2.5 coming in, and man, Josh Allen's on fire right now. Give me the Bills 2.5. Rob, you go ahead.
One, I've never heard anyone be so reckless with bet your nuts that you start off with, I'm going to the NFL.
Right. I know, right? That's crazy. This is reckless speculation. Baby.
Yes.
Let's go.
So I got a lot that I'm liking this weekend. Quick rundown, I'll give you my actual budget. Look, love Fresno State plus 2.5. UNLV's in disarray. I love Kentucky plus 16 at Ole Miss. Ole Miss first test. But I'm going to stick with my bet your nuts where we talked about a little bit earlier. Alabama is plus 1, plus 1.5, depending on what book you're looking at. Give me the home team in that game, a night game in the SEC. It's going to be rowdy. Everyone's going to be watching. So what you're watching, you might as well have your money on it. So give me Alabama plus the points on Saturday night.
Like it.
I'm going to go down to Tampa where the Buccaneers bad loss last week against the Bo Nix led Denver Broncos. Philadelphia's coming in. And here's a team I talked earlier about, bipolar, haven't really, the big teams that we're used to seeing win haven't really showed up. Tampa's a 2-point dog in this one. I do not believe in Jalen Hurts. I think he's regressed mightily in the past couple seasons. And with Devontae Smith out, A.J. Brown's got the hamstring that's kept him sidelined the last 2 weeks. I think this is a game where Baker kind of figures it out, uses Mike Evans a lot more. The defense is going to show up, put a lot of pressure on Hurts, shut down the run game, and I like Tampa to cover and win this game against the Eagles.
All right.
James Thomas is he's our resident Braves prognosticator here. Braves against Kansas City, and James, this is important for me because heading into this series, Kansas City's tied with the Tigers for the second spot in the wild card, where Kansas City's playing your Braves in Atlanta, and Detroit gets the luxury of the soon-to-be worst team in the history of Major League Baseball coming into Comerica, which I'll be in attendance at Saturday, the Chicago White Sox. So big. I'm pulling big. I might have to pull out my Braves hat this weekend for that one. Pulling hard for the Braves. So, yes, I'm on you on that one, buddy.
All right. Well, that wraps up our Bet Your Nuts. Let's slide into final thoughts here. Final words. Sorry, it says final thoughts on my sheet.
I wonder who typed that.
I just read what the teleprompter tells me.
It's the scrap man.
That's right. I'll go ahead and go first real quick. I'll stay on my soapbox about the Titans. And, man, what are you guys doing? This is just ridiculous. And this is the worst possible timing to put on a product of this magnitude or lack thereof. It's just awful to watch. And then you want to ask me to pay that much for a new seat and barely give me anything for my loyalty over the years. It's bittersweet to sell the PSLs, but man, Red Zone is so much sweeter sometimes. So
it's changed the game.
I may go back to just being a player fan and not having a home team necessarily. So we'll see how it goes. And I hate to say that because I'm pretty damn loyal, but man, it's really hard to be. So that's my final thoughts.
Robbie?
Whoever wants to go.
Yeah, my final thoughts. Obviously, what's going on down in the Panhandle and the coast, and we're getting it already up here. So, just people, if anyone's listening, don't try to outsmart yourself. Get out of there. Stay safe and listen to what officials are telling you. And it's looking bad, and it's looking Katrina-esque. And so just hope everyone, can rebuild and repair.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, it's pretty scary what's going on down there. So hopefully everyone stays safe. But my final words for this week are unbelievable. The last 2 days, I should say, Christina and I've gone down to Comerica Park to watch the Detroit Tigers do something that hasn't been done in this city in my lifetime. It's hard pressed to find a team that's been able to accomplish what they have in a short period of time in the history of Major League Baseball. Since August 11th, they went into that game. They were 9.5 games out of the wild card race. They were like 10 games under 500. And in that time span, they're 30-11 in the 41 games. This team has won 13 games after being down after the 7th inning. It's truly remarkable what they've been able to accomplish with one regular starting pitcher in the rotation, Tarek Skubal, who will be the Cy Young Award winner, opposite of Chris Sale, who James's Braves, he'll be the Cy Young winner in the National League. But they have put together a group of relievers that have come in and consistently opened and closed games. They're using 5 to 6 relievers a game on average. They have a closer in Jason Foley, he got his 28th save today. It's just remarkable. Average age of the lineup is 24. They're the youngest team in baseball. And they did something the other day, which was pretty much a head scratcher. They DFA'd one of their more heavily used relievers and brought up Jackson Jobe, who was a first-round pick in 2021, who this season started at West Michigan, single A, and now he's in the middle of a pennant chase with the Tigers of the big league club. It's a bunch of scrappy, no-name players that have bought in. It's a different player every day. Today, Colt Keith came into the series. He was 0 for 9. He had 2 of the biggest hits of the game, wins the game in the 8th inning. It's a team led by A.J. Hinch, who won a World Series with the Houston Astros with young farm-raised talent. And it's awesome. The city's a buzz. It's good to see not just the Lions getting success. So I'm a huge Tiger fanatic. I mean, baseball is my heart, and I'm loving every minute of it. It would have been great to have Raj here to spitball some baseball, but it's exciting what's going on in Detroit. And like I said, I'll be there Saturday. We bought standing room tickets because it looks like that might be the day they clinch their spot in the postseason. And oh man, it's just awesome. And your boy may or may not have just went and bought a mini season package for next year. I have bought in. I love it, and it's fun to watch. This team they're calling them the gritty Tigers. So and the Lions have kind of started pushing their way too. So it's awesome. I love it. Go Tigers! Eat them up.
How the tables have turned. Nashville is now the old Detroit Lions. Detroit City is all the buzz. So,
yes. Yeah. Yep.
And after the show, Brandon and I are going to try to guess who's in the baseball playoffs.
I'm going to say the Braves.
Not yet. They're on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
They could be after this weekend.
All right, guys. Good show. Good to be back. Thank everyone for tuning in. If you did, or if you catch this later, thanks for listening. We are Reckless Speculation.
Like, subscribe, follow, all those things.
All the things.
Absolutely. See you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation.